Hey everybody, Joel, importsauce.com. Today I wanted to show you the new soft coolant lines we got for our K04 Turbo from Mamba Tech. Last video we did on this K04 Turbo was the Elevate oil feed line, soft line that replaces the hard line there. And in doing some research and looking online, we did find that there was a company, Mamba, M-A-M-B-A, that makes replacement soft lines for these hard coolant lines. So we have the coolant in, the coolant out. They both come onto the turbo housing there with those banjo bolts. But just in terms of all of these hard lines, it's very difficult. They're very rigid. You know, there's not a lot of flex. So we saw this line, kit on somebody else's build. We ordered it up from them, and it came about a day later, right? So this is what it essentially looks like, right? So we have two lines. Let's go ahead and just separate this out. We have our banjo fitting for that one. We have our banjo fitting for this one. We have our crush washers or face washers for each fitting. So, right, two over here, two over here. And then we have our hose adapters, right? So these two coolant lines on here, this one here and this one, actually attach to hoses. And what that attaches to is, let me show you here. This is the coolant hard pipe that goes directly on the back of the block, right? Comes in, the water pump goes there. This feeds down to your oil cooler. This one goes up over to your coolant reserve. This one right here actually loops to this guy. And then this one right here loops to that guy. These ones loop back over to the other side, which will eventually carry up to your thermostat and complete the cycle, right? So there we go. So these lines are a direct replacement for these hard lines here, which is going to give you a little more play in there. I mean, the oil feed line that Elevate makes is really the game changer, because before, if you look at the video and the review we did on this, it runs right in front of the bypass valve there. These, not too bad in the way, but we figure since the turbo is out, we're doing the rebuild, might as well just go ahead and order this up. So I've already kind of taken a look, and this is easy enough with a 3/4 socket is going to remove these two guys. And then you're going to need an assortment, a 14 mil, a 17 mil, 3/4 is going to handle all of your hardware here. As well as, just for precaution, we will use some blue medium thread locker on here on certain pieces. We'll show you that. But what we're going to do is first take a look at, let's just say this coolant feed in, right? So what happens is you have your line on there. On one side, you're going to have your banjo bolt, right? So you're going to have, let's go ahead and just kind of suit this up, right? So you have your, let's go like this. We have our washer, we have our fitting, we have our bottom washer, and then all of this is going to go into that guy right there. And then that guy will actually go directly down into the housing. And then at that point, off of the other end, we have, as you can see, there are compression fittings there, which will go and hook up to our adapter, which is going to convert this into something that a hose can clamp onto there. So they gave us two sizes, right? A smaller and a larger one there. And then what we're going to do is, I think it's going to be the smaller, but let's just come over here and take a look, right? So we have the hose, and we can kind of see that small one is going to be too small. It's not going to be a solid fitting, right? So we're going to go with the larger one that is going to get on there and then get hose clamped on. So what we'll do first is we will go ahead and we're going to take off this line here with our 17 mil socket, and then we will assemble this and tighten everything down with the hardware that we have there, and then we'll show you exactly what that looks like. Okay, so that first one is on. You want to make sure to pay attention to the orientation of the old hose. It went right up this way, and already size, shape, everything's in the right place. And one thing to note is when we go to put our turbo feed line on and our coupler, it's gonna be real easy, right? Because we can just kind of move this guy out of the way, squeeze that thing on, and it makes things really easy, just like this one, to be able to maneuver. So what we're going to do is pull this one off and then suit up, same thing here, and show you what that looks like. Okay, so we are actually going back in time. I pulled this hose back off. This was after the video was done and complete. I was talking to some other Volvo people, and they said, hey, you know what, there's a few things. What about this and that? So two questions I just wanted to address. The inner diameter of the hoses, right? So initially right here, you're like, oh yeah, that looks big, that looks great. But we need to look at the smallest part. And when we look at those bends, we can see side by side, yeah, there definitely is a difference there. So let's go ahead and just show you. We already measured it, but just so you can see what it's working with, right? So this is the factory hard pipe. Let's go ahead and open that up. About 6.9 millimeters, right? Come over here, push that in, and we try to get all the way into there, which I think we can get pretty close. Open that up. 4.9, right? So we're almost 2 millimeters diameter difference on those two, and those are going to be the bottleneck points on there. So obviously it's going to come in, it's going to have its pressure pumping in from the system, but there may be a bit of a bottleneck there, in which is it going to slow it down, or is it just going to pressurize it and move the same amount quicker, like sticking your thumb over a garden hose? Well, since there's not a turbo temperature sensor, we don't know. So that's definitely something that you want to consider. We've already purchased these, we've already installed them. We're going to reinstall this and we're going to run it, you know, and we'll see. So our hose is all built. And here's one thing I wanted to show you, right? If you line everything up straight up and down, it's going to give you an issue, right? If you're looking straight down at it and you have the hose going directly over that, you're going to have a real hard time bolting up and getting that thing angled in. Also, when you tighten it down, you don't want this lower part to be too close here, because you won't have enough room to get your fitting on for your going to your intercooler pipe. So we played with it a couple times and we have it going flush there onto the turbo housing, and then coming off just kind of a little cockeyed, like it's not quite going down at 6 o'clock, about 6:37, and then from there it kind of goes up. So that way we have a direct access to tighten the hose down, and we have plenty of clearance in between getting our coupler on for our lower hard pipe. So we're gonna go ahead and bolt up the rest of those on here and show you the final. Okay, so everything is on. I went ahead and just set it here so we can kind of see the orientation on how it would sit on the car, right? So we have these guys all bolted in. We have the proper order, right? So we have crushers on each side. Bolt goes through there. Everything is torqued and solid. These guys will go up to their respective places. And now that complements the Elevate soft line. We're going to have plenty of room for activities on here now. So I think this is a good upgrade. I don't know if it's super essential, but you know, we saw it on somebody else's and we figured, hey, turbo's off, let's go ahead and check this thing out. But what another P1 owner said is, you know, these aren't too popular yet. We don't know the structural integrity of them. So we have bagged and tagged the hard lines so that in case anything does go wrong, we are not having to go to the junkyard or pay Volvo. You know, I don't know what they want for those, probably not cheap. We'll keep those up in our bin, and you know, in case we need them, we have them. So cool product. Links are down below. Let us know what you think. And if anything goes south, these things blow up, then we will definitely do a follow-up and let you know. But automatically, these things look really cool. The next question we got was, hey, how does the factory turbo heat shield fit with all of these lines on there? And we're like, oh, good question. We don't know. Let's go ahead and get that. So, right, we got this guy here. Slide it up. Match our mount to 3. Fourth one there goes on to the actual downpipe, but you can kind of see. Actually, those hard lines have no bearing on, or the soft lines, I'm sorry. Right, so the elevate one fits. Plenty of clearance, and then these guys fit with no issue. That one comes up and goes off that way. So no bearing on the factory get that off heat shield. So those were the two things. Heat shield, not an issue. Diameter of this, 2 millimeters. So just something to consider.